ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back once again to Z Daddy's Garage. Today, I promise, we're gonna do our best to start assembling at least a short block for this here big block. I finally got my gasket kit in. We're gonna do a little unbox on that deal. Been playing around. I have a new gimbal. I'm still waiting on my microphones to show up. It's been like a month at this point, maybe 2 months. It's been quite a while. My editor's been pretty happy with the audio so far, so it hasn't been a big deal. I also have a fairly loud voice, so we'll just deal with it as it comes. But today, we're gonna be doing big block stuff, as promised. In the last video, you saw where I had 2-piece seal in the back of this thing, and it looks a little crispy. I do know that it got warm enough to actually lock the engine down, so we're not gonna reuse any of this junk. I'll go pick that up later. There was something else I was gonna say to y'all too. Can't remember what it was. Oh well. So, go ahead and unwrap this thing. Make sure that it didn't rust in the week that it's been sitting here. Looks like it did all right. A little bit right there, but I can polish that back off. Yep, that's not bad. So what we're going to try to do in today's video is assemble the bottom end. We're also going to measure the piston rings, which we're going to do first. So that way, if they're right, I can go ahead and put the pistons back in it, and we'll just assemble the whole short block today, hopefully. Hopefully it doesn't start raining on us either. It is cloudy. If it starts raining, we may have to stop filming because I don't know if you'll be able to hear me. But we'll find out. I'm just going to set the crank right there. Pop these bearings out real quick. There we go. I saw a comment on one of my videos. When you see this one, it will have been posted like 2 months ago. But a friend of mine had mentioned doing 2 cameras, like a chest mount or a head mount, something like that, so you can actually kind of see a little bit better as to what's going on. If I had 3 hands, the gimbal would actually work out really well for that, but I don't have 3 hands. So I'm probably going to look into doing some different camera equipment. I've been talking to my editor, and we've got a couple ideas. So I believe I will be getting me a chest mount for probably the iPhone, and I'll be getting a different camera to use for the wide angle shots. It's kind of where we're going. Maybe a scrap bucket in here. All right, I'm gonna loosen up the bolts holding my engine up. Grab a wrench here. There we go. Roll this bad boy over. She's a little heavy. Big block stuff. There we go. Getting that back down. While I'm not really doing anything. Let me walk you through the gimbal real quick. So it's supposed to have facial tracking, which there's hand gestures I can actually start that with. I think it's that one, starts hand gesture. Oh, looky there, it does track. So it has facial tracking, and then obviously it's a gimbal, so if I pick it up and go start recording something, it's supposed to be a lot smoother. So I can stop it like this. Yeah. And then, so if I just come out here, ooh, yeah, I'm a little shaky with this thing. We're gonna figure it out though. So just to kind of show you what's going on, my pistons are down here in the oil pan. What we're gonna do is take the rings out of one of them, or all of them, excuse me, and put them in the cylinders, and then we're gonna measure the gap that the piston ring has in it to ensure that it's the right gap. If they're too tight, you start creating excess heat. If they're too loose, then your engine's not sealing up. You wind up burning a lot of oil. It's just not a good time. You don't build compression like you should be or anything along those lines. So bear with me as I'm playing with that their gimbal thing, trying to figure out how to make best shots. I'm doing all of this by myself right now, so it is kind of hard. One of these days, maybe when I get big enough, I'll just get a camera guy, you know, so I ain't gotta worry about it. But for now, doing it all by myself. So we're gonna pull a couple of these piston rings, and to be honest with you, I'm probably not gonna check all of them because I'm not incredibly concerned with it. We may have to. We may just check all of them. But if we do, we'll probably either cut it or time lapse it because it does get pretty boring pretty quick. Get this thing out of here, show you what we're gonna be doing. So that's your piston ring. It sits inside the ring land, which is a groove cut around the outside of the piston. And when I'm talking about the gap, is that gap right there. So when you put in the cylinder, it closes that gap up. There is a measurement of how wide that gap is supposed to be when it's inside the cylinder. If it's too wide, you're not gonna build compression, you're gonna start burning oil. If it's too close and touching, then you don't have any room for heat expansion. So not only are you causing more heat, but you'll wind up causing more heat to the piston, breaking the ring land, rubbing the edge of the piston ring off. There's a bunch of different things that can happen. So you need to make sure that your gaps are pretty close to what they're supposed to be. This is number 1. So we're gonna check that one over here. I need to get my calipers and measure this here deal. I also need to get online and figure out exactly what this gap is supposed to be because I'm not very well versed on big blogs. I didn't get to help him, but a buddy of mine recently did his LS that he's building, which I got to hear last night for the first time. That was pretty cool. It sounds nasty. It's got a stage 3 Brian Tooley racing cam in it. I mean, he's built it. It's got a full built bottom end. It's got Brian Tooley stuff everywhere. Went to a carbureted. He's got Daytona sensor kit on it so he can still run the coil packs, but he went to a carburetor because we're carburetor guys. Heard that fire up last night for the first time, and that was pretty dope, but he's already been through all of this. I don't know if there's a point to that story or not. Let me do my research. I'll get back with y'all in just a second to figure out what this gap's supposed to be. All right, we are back. Doing a little bit of research. Couldn't remember the formula for figuring out what my ring gap was supposed to be. Figured out what that was. So you take your bore size, so you measure your bore, which I hope is really, really close. I don't have any internal bore gauges, so I use a set of calipers. Checked in every possible location you can come up with. All the cylinders are all the same at 4.283, so 4-inch, 283 thousandths bore. You take your bore size, you multiply it by, what I'm finding a factor for the big block is 4.5 thousandths or 0.0045. So you multiply your bore size by your formula plug-in, and you come up with a ring gap. My top ring gap is supposed to be 19.2 thousandths. So 0.0192, and my lower gap is supposed to be butt 21, so 0.021. So again, I don't have any really fine mites or bore mites or anything like that. I've got a feeler gauge and I got a set of rings, so we're just going to go through and start checking these things. And that is incredibly wide. So what I'm going to do is start adding feeler gauges, shims to this thing to figure out where we're at. I've already just started at 35, see where it takes me. Wow. 35. That's actually more like a 36 or a 37. Get my other feeler gauges, hang on. There's a 35, there's a 40. Wow. About 45, right? 45 doesn't fit. So we're like a 42 then. Well, in that case, I'm going to order me a set of rings. I'm going to fix these right. 45 sounds like a lot, or call it 42. 42 sounds like a lot as opposed to 19. Let's be honest. So it does not look like we're going to be assembling a full short block today, but we can still put the crank in it and plastic gauge those bearings, make sure that everything looks good. After I polish the crank, I do want to plastic gauge it just to double check. So we're going to cut this thing again. I'm going to sand the little bit of rust that is on one of these journals off of the crank. I'm going to get my plastic, see if I can find my plastic gauge. And then I'll come back out here and we're going to install the rim ring seal, put the crank and bearings in, and I'll show you how to torque these things down. I'm just going to kind of show y'all what we were doing here so you can see what I'm measuring. So you can see that gap at the top there. This is the top ring off of piston 1 and cylinder 1. And you can see that gap. So like I said, that mathematically, if I'm right, this is supposed to be like 19.5 thousandths, and it's at like 42. But that kind of shows you what we're doing. Technically, you're also supposed to measure these at the top of the bore and the bottom of the bore, way down here, just to make sure that your bore is square and true all the way through. I don't really have that capability, so I probably won't be doing that today. However, there's something else I want to show you that may have been what caused this engine to overheat. When I pulled the old head gaskets off, which I can show you, you can see these top coolant ports are necked way down, and these bottom coolant ports are completely blocked off. I don't know if that was for a different era engine or what, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5, a 6. It did have these ports on either end in it, or excuse me, these are blocked off in the block, but it did have these ports. So what I'm fixing to do is pop open the new gasket kit and see if, let's see if I can get this thing turned around. Oh yeah, something along that line. Hopefully you can see me. So I'm gonna pop open this new gasket kit and see if the new gaskets look the same way or what. So we're gonna put you all down here and figure out a way to do this. Just want the head gaskets. Looks like this one also came with a 2-piece rear main, so I guess that's what we'll be using. That's interesting. Do a little overlay here. This one is the same way. That doesn't even look like the same gasket. No, it is. Okay. It is directional. But it also has blocked off coolant ports. So I need to do some research now and figure out if those are supposed to be open or if they're supposed to be blocked off. I would imagine with it being a coolant port, it should be open. Especially considering the front side of that block is not bored in for the coolant port, I should say. So that's interesting. But that kind of solves some of that question. So see, it's also got these little holes up here. And yeah, that's interesting. So I don't know where we're going to be going with this thing today then. I did call a machine shop about getting some cam bearings put in it. You can see where I tried to punch these out. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Oh, there we go. You see where I tried to punch these out, and I can't get it to move. So the cam bearing tool that I have is only an installer, not a remover. So yeah, I'm gonna call the machine shop. Like I said, I'm waiting on him to give me a call back now. If he calls me back, I may take the block over there today and have him put the cam bearings in it, so that way y'all can, or excuse me, I can continue with the big block and we can kind of see how progress being made. So, interesting. Let me stop this thing off again, go do some more research, and I'll get back with y'all. All right, y'all, hopefully you can still see my head. If not, it's not a big deal. So I got the block flipped back over. That's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward with putting the crank in this thing. I got the crank polished, cleaned back up. It wasn't actually rust on it. It was a little bit of grease off my finger from the other day. But still wanted to check it, so I got the crank cleaned back up again. I got my bearings out here. We're gonna go ahead and throw this in. I'm gonna show y'all how to plastic gauge today. So as I think I was explaining it in the last video. Maybe I was just telling a buddy of mine. So you got your bearing with a hole in it, and you got your bearing that doesn't have a hole in it. The bearing with the hole in it goes in the crank, or excuse me, in the block, because there's also a hole for your oiling. That's where the oil comes into your bearing, creates oil pressure, allows you not to blow up your engine. So showed him that. I think I did show him that the other day. But we're gonna put these things in, and I'm gonna show y'all how to plastic gauge. While we're getting this initial one set up, I'm gonna walk y'all through what I found with the head gaskets. We got king 20 overs. All right, so I'm gonna walk y'all through what I found with the head gaskets. So I did some research. Come to find out that this is best I can pick up. This is a Gen 3 block, so this is an early 90s block. And the later blocks only had one of these lower water jackets in it. It was between 5 and 7 on this side and between 2 and 4 on this side, which still doesn't necessarily explain why that head gasket didn't have a hole anywhere, but they said it's a fairly common problem. Felpro makes a gasket, part number, I believe it was 8523PT1. They make one that lines up with all these water jacket ports. So I'm gonna go ahead and order that, since we can't put the rings and stuff in anyways. And yeah, we'll have the right head gaskets next time. So I am pretty confident that the reason this thing got so hot So a buddy of mine had gone and bought this engine in a truck. They bought the whole truck, was gonna drive it home, and got about 25 minutes or so from where they were. You know, they had picked the truck up and it had been running fine, but then it got hot enough that it just, the guy who was driving it said it shut down, and he pulled off the side of the road and they couldn't get it to fire back up. So they wound up getting it towed home, but it had gotten hot enough to lock down, and maybe a little bit nervous turning it down. But since I know that that happened, and seeing that head gasket, that I'm pretty confident in saying that's what happened to it. It simply got hot because it couldn't cool the heads. So take these here bearings, line them up with, let me show you that. There's a little ear, little embossment right there, and there's a groove in each one of these bearing bores, main bores, that embossment lines up with. And then you simply make sure that you're level on both sides of the block. Do that to all of these. Said I am not an engine builder. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of some, you know what I mean? I've built engines, you know, every engine that I've built so far has withstood the test of time. It's been a good engine, but I don't know a lot of these formulas and a lot of these details off the top of my head because I don't do this every day. So bear with me, we're gonna make it work though. This set of bearings, you can see the difference in them here. If you look real close, you can see the difference. Oh Lord. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference between them, but this is for your rear bearing, number 5. It helps hold the rear main seal in place, and this is also where your oil pump and everything mounts, and I believe this has something to do with your oil pickup and whatnot as well. It may not be right on that, so don't quote me, but I know just enough about this stuff to get in trouble, if I'm being honest. Yeah, set of Kings, baby. Cool. Yeah, that looks all right. All the holes look good. All right, so now I'm going to set the crank in. Keep the flywheel bolt put back here so as I can hold it. I'm not going to use any assembly lube right now because we're going to plastic gauge this deal. We don't need it right now. So you hold it real straight, drop it in place. Go. I'm sure that was good for it. Now, you get your main caps. Pop the old bearings out of your main caps. Need a bucket to put these bolts in. Ooh, there we go. Oil filter hole. All right, where's my screwdriver? Pop the new bearings in them. Some writing in there, but I can't tell what it says. Anyway, pop the bearings down the main caps, which I'm sure I've said like 9 or 10 times. There we go. Get the plastic mallet and fix that one. It's a little bit off. This one you can't screw up. It can only go on one way because of the way that it's built. So, actually before I do that, let me show you the plastic gauge. So yeah, we're gonna do this. So, plastic gauge is a plastic, little bitty plastic rod. I'm gonna try to show it to you on camera. But you lay the plastic on top of your bearing, boop, and then you torque your main caps down to what they're supposed to be. You remove it, and then you peel the plastic gauge off, and you hold it up to one of these lines. This line tells you, so if it spreads out that wide, you're at an inch, or excuse me, 1/1000th. If you're at this line, width of the plastic after getting it squished. If you're here, you're at it 1.5 thousandths, 2 thousandths, 3 thousandths. So this is a 1 to 3 plastic gauge set. See if I can show you how small this stuff is. Ooh, ooh, yeah. Oh, it lost me again. That's okay. But yeah, you get the point. It's really, really small stuff. So let's rotate this a little bit. My oil galley's in the way. There we go. So you lay that in there. Let it stick into your fingers. And then you drop your main cap on. And you drop your bolt center. And then you run her down with a 1-inch gun until the twit's turning. No, I'm kidding, you don't do that. There is a torque spec on these. I gotta grab the ratchet, or excuse me, the torque wrench. Set it up. So like I said, you'll torque it down, and then you'll read how wide your plastic is when you pull the cap back off. That'll give you your bearing clearance. On this engine, they say big blocks like it a little bit tighter than small blocks. The best clearance that I found that I liked was 1.5 thousandths to about 2.5 thousandths. I'd be happy with. So as long as we're if we're less than 2.5, I'm gonna run it because it's not gonna be a screamer anyway. It's not a race engine. It's never gonna be a race engine. So, you know, we'll kind of leave that where it's at. Let me grab this torque gun. I'll be right back. There we go, 13, 16. All right, so again, I'm not an engine builder, so I'm having to look most of this up as I go. Best information that I can find said 110 pounds for the main caps. Does not give me a sequence, so I'm gonna do it like you would do a head. You start in the center, and we're gonna do probably two steps. So if we're doing 110, tell you what, we'll do 3. Let's start at like 40. Come on, gun, where you at? All right, there's 0. Just start at 50. All right, we're gonna do 50 on the inside. There's 50. 50. 50. 50. Let's step up to 85. What do you say? 85. 85. I'll step up to 110. There's 100. 10. 110. That's all you gotta do. Now you back it off. Yeah, get it broke loose. Pull your main cap back up, which I'm gonna have to tap. Where's my hammer? Everybody's saying, oh my God, cowboy, you got a brass one. It's okay, I'm not worried about it. There we go. Now, hopefully we can see this. So you can see, oh yeah, there we go. That mark right there, that's your plastic gauge. So now you get your actual gauge, your measuring device. So, oh Lord have mercy. Stop it. There we go. All right. So you're gonna hold this thing up here, try to match it up. So looks like we're about 3 thousandths. We're right in between 3 and 2. So yeah, we're about 2.5. I'm happy with that. We're gonna run her. So kind of scrape that off. Scrape it off the crank. Good deal. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's not gonna get much better anyways. It's not like I'm gonna order a crank for it. Not today anyway. So I'm gonna pull this back out. We're gonna drop that rear main seal in. Make sure that nothing else is in the way. And then we're gonna start torquing these caps down. All right, grab that seal. Make sure you put it in the right way. So, I always go too low. Okay, so there you go. You can see it right here. The this, you see that angled in like that? This is going to go towards your oil. So if your oil is trying to push this way, it's going to catch this lip and keep it from coming out. So you want to make sure your seal's put in the right way. There's one side. You put it the other way, you will leak oil profusely from the rear main seal and have no idea why. Ask me how I know. See if we can do this without that bulge in there. Oh yeah, it's a little better. All right. One other thing to check for when you're doing rear main seals is the amount of wear. If there's a lip groove wore into the crankshaft where the seal actually rides on it. This one doesn't have one, but let's say you put a new seal in something and it's still leaking oil from the same place, there's a good chance that you have a ring like that wore into it. You can get a spacer sleeve, which is the cheap fix for it. You just hammer the spacer sleeve over it, gives you a slightly larger brand new surface for your seal to ride on. Otherwise you got to take to machine shop and get it either built up and turned down, or turn it down and get a smaller bearing, or buy a new crank. There's a bunch of different options, but yeah, that's the cheapest. Cheap. I like cheap. I don't like cheaping out, but I do like cheap. That's why I'm not incredibly impressed with that gasket kit I bought. It came from Summit. It was the cheapest one on the website. No, it did not actually. It did not come from Summit. Let me say that again. It came from Amazon. It was supposed to be a Felpro set. That's right. It was supposed to be a Felpro set, and it's not a Felpro set, so that's cool. So, kind of a good thing I decided to order different head gaskets for it anyway. Yeah, someone did not know what they were doing. There's silicone back here on this rear main, where this rear main cap would sit too. I actually didn't realize that. That might close up my bearing tolerance another half thou or so. You're not supposed to put silicone down under any of your main cap mating surfaces or your head mating surfaces. Basically anything that takes a torque spec, you probably shouldn't put silicone on it. Give her a little scrape here. Now I'm pretty happy with that. All right. Come on, baby. Just gotta hold my mouth right. Cool. All right, so I'm going to take the other half of this rear main seal. Again, notate my direction for the seal, and it slides right onto that there emboss or channel or alignment or whatever you want to call it. And you take and drop old girl on there. Make the job a little quicker here. Make it a wee faster. We're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. Oh Lord. I dropped the socket. There's 50. What up, kitty? 50, 50, 50, 50. Go back up to 85. 85. 85. You kind of want to make sure that your crank actually still rotates while you're doing this. At least it's good practice by me, so that way you can know if something happens and you know where it happened. So let's say you're assembling this engine and you throw the whole bottom end together, go to turn the crank over and it won't turn. Well, you now have no idea if it was this cap, this cap, this cap, this cap, or this cap, or at what torque spec. So if you check it all along the way, then you know exactly where it happened. One 10. 110. 110. 110. Oh yeah. Turns over nicely. All right. So, we'll go ahead and start the pretty soft little jazz music and start rolling through these things. Beautiful. And for those of you who might be screaming, "Cowboy, cowboy," which is my name, by the way, Cowboy, you didn't know where your caps were going to be. Actually, I did. And for those of you who don't know, all of your Chevrolet stuff is labeled 4, 3, 2, and then 1. And there's a little arrow that points which direction the cap should go. If you pull your oil pan off and you're taking your bottom end apart and you don't know these aren't labeled, my trick is to get a little prick punch or a little fine point punch and say on this one you'll put 1 dimple, on this one you'll put 2 dimples, 3 dimples, 4 dimples, and then the rear main's usually always differently enough to where you can't screw that up. And then I'll either take me a scribe or a Dremel or something like that and put me an arrow in it, or I'll just take me a Sharpie or a paint marker and put an arrow forward for which ones I'm doing. But all of these are labeled, so I knew which direction they were going to go. And yeah, there we go. So we are torqued down, 110 pounds on all the caps. We're going to call it 2.5, maybe 2 1/4 thousandths clearance. It feels good. There's no shimmy. There's no walk. I like it. I like it a lot. So, yeah. With that being that, I've got one other update to give y'all, which, if I'm being honest about, I probably should have got this out a minute ago. So, if you go to my TikTok, you can see a little bit of the drive of me going to get it. But I managed to find a T56 6-speed out of an F-body, 95 Camaro, and that is the pièce de résistance for hot rodders like me, especially something going behind a big block. I don't see any reason that I'm gonna have trouble with that. Guy had it listed on Facebook for $600 and I could not turn it down. It was a 4-hour drive from me, but I was able to go get it. So I now have a transmission. So hopefully I can wrap this engine up before a whole lot longer. We can get the engine and transmission bolted together, put them in the truck. And at that point, we're gonna start fabbing up a cross member, motor mounts. I just gotta drill holes for those. yeah, so once we start getting all that put in, we're gonna start working towards getting the engine and transmission mounted up and really get this project moving. So if you'll notice, well, you won't notice because you're not here. So these videos are about 2 months behind what's actually happened. My intention is to do like a big reveal video for this truck the night before we leave for Biloxi, upload it, have it done, so that way y'all can see the finished product right before we all go to Biloxi, and then when we get there, you can see the truck, you can look it over, you can say hey to me, I can sign stuff for you, whatever you want to do. You know, that may be wishful thinking, maybe I'm not that big yet, but hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. I can enjoy it, right? So that's the deal. So you are about 2 months behind the actual progress. So yeah, good deal. So I think that's gonna about do us for today. Ooh, I gotta do some practice with this gimbal. So that should do us for today. I'm waiting on the machine shop to call me back about the cam bearings. I showed you the transmission. Still got to figure out what I'm gonna do with rings. And I'm now still awaiting another set of head gaskets. But so goes building hot rods. Thank y'all for watching. Tune in next time. Peace out. Love you, man.